Welcome back to another episode of Getting Personal. I'm here today with Brady, co-founder and CEO at Bonzo Finance Labs. How are you doing, Brady? It's really great to have you on.
Hey, Jack. Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, doing well.
Nice. I know it's been busy these weeks, right? But before we dive into Bonzo and everything that you're building behind the scenes when it comes to DeFi lending and the upcoming NFT sale, I'd love to get your perspective as a long time HBAR community member and now a founder as well. What's your sentiment as we sit here today in regards to DeFi, Hedera, Web3 even?
Yeah, definitely a long time Hedera community member. My background is I had previously worked at the Hedera organization and then subsequently Swirlds Labs for about 5.5 years now. Had been heavily involved in helping form the community that exists today, and performed product marketing and a director of marketing type services for the Hedera network. And it's been incredible to see how large the community has grown just over the many years. Particularly, I think the retail and DeFi and NFT ecosystems that are on the network. I know, initially upon Hedera's launch, smart contracts weren't really a thing. We had consensus service and then token service, and then a relaunch of smart contracts using the EVM. And I think that really drove a ton of development around EVM-based protocols and driving some of these ecosystems that we see today with Saucer Swap and various NFT marketplaces and HeliSwap, Hashpack. The list goes on and on. And so, sentiment-wise, I'm really excited about the growth that we've seen and the trajectory that the ecosystem is on. If you look at various reports that have been issued by HBAR Foundation as well as Masari, the Hedera ecosystem continues to grow, increases in daily active users, increases in TVL, trading volume. All these things are culminating into just such an awesome ecosystem and a lot of adoption. So hoping to help contribute to that as well.
And we also recently broke, was it a monthly record of developers as well? Was that last month, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, that's right. So through Santiment feed, Santiment tracks some of the key metrics on development for the Hedera project. And I think the metric was around total commits that have been made to the open source repo for the Hedera project. And leading project in terms of developer activity over the past 30 days. So that was really cool to see.
Absolutely. And with, talking development, I know you've been working very hard on Bonzo Finance Labs for the past months, I imagine. I don't know since when, you can obviously tell us. But for those who are hearing maybe about it for the first time, what is Bonzo Finance Labs and what is the mission? What have you guys set out to build for the community?
Yeah, great question. So I'm co-founder and CEO of Bonzo Finance Labs. Bonzo Finance Labs is a development shop that's contributing to the development of the open source protocol Bonzo Finance. Bonzo Finance is an open source non-custodial lending and borrowing protocol that is based on Aave v2 and adapted to Hedera's EVM and native token service. And Aave in particular, if you haven't heard of Aave before, it's the most utilized lending and borrowing protocol on the Ethereum network, as well as a few other layer 1 and layer 2 networks. And it's been very thoroughly battle tested across various technical and economic scenarios. And so, the reason we chose Aave as sort of our foundation was primarily because of that. It seems like a very relatively safe protocol to use to build this out.
Nice. I love that aspect, like taking that cross chain basic approach to building this out. It's like taking what really makes sense, right? Being agnostic to that and to say, this makes sense here, and then we can adapt it over here, and to offer the best potential, DeFi lending protocol, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And right. And then not only adapting it to the Hedera network, but also, Hedera offers such a wide range of unique functionalities and performance and security benefits. And so adapting the code base of the protocol to match those attributes that the Hedera network provides. So we're seeing a ton of benefits from that. The one of the biggest ones is just the speed at which you can utilize the protocol relative to using Aave on some of these other networks. It's ridiculously fast from what we've seen in our testnet deployment. So we're excited about that. It's also very inexpensive relative, obviously, to using that on Ethereum.
Yeah, talking of the testnet, I've seen the community being very active in. It nearly feels like a campaign where I'm seeing a lot of people tweet out that they've been testing it, their experience. Is that something you've organized intentionally to use it as kind of like a marketing campaign at the same time as you test it out?
Yeah, good eye. It is a campaign. It's a campaign that we're running. So the background on that is we are doing an NFT sale for Bonzo Finance through Headstarter. And with that program, we really want to create a wide distribution of these NFTs to the community, ensure that folks who are early adopters of the protocol are able to get access to purchasing at least one of those NFTs. And so we've set up an allow list for that sale. And in order to participate in the allow list, this campaign that we're running today is that you join our Discord. You read through the instructions there on how to utilize the Bonzo Finance protocol using testnet assets. Take a screenshot of that, post it on Twitter, and then report back to the Discord, and we log your mainnet account to be added to that allow list for the NFT sale. And the two things I like about this is it's teaching users how to utilize the protocol. So they actually have to go in with their testnet account and supply assets, test assets to the protocol and borrow assets. And so they're getting sort of familiarity with what that process looks like. And then obviously the second one is it does give greater awareness and exposure of Bonzo Finance to the rest of the community by having them post on Twitter.
Absolutely. I've definitely been seeing it every day of the week. So definitely doing it right. It's working. Let's touch on DeFi lending, the concept itself, maybe breaking it down into simpler terms for those that haven't tried it before or heard of it before. What does it mean, and how does it benefit an ecosystem?
Yeah, so to describe how decentralized lending works, let's describe sort of traditional lending in the first place. Typically, what happens is a bank will have users who supply their money to the bank in a savings account or a checking account. The funds that are provided to the bank, they use that to facilitate loans to other individuals who are looking to pay an interest rate and take out a loan from the bank. The bank, acting as an intermediary, takes a significant chunk of interest. At the end of the day, when your funds sitting in your checking or savings account, you're receiving tiny percentages of interest on that. So you really don't get the full benefit of providing your funds to the bank. With decentralized lending, it removes the intermediary, it removes the bank, and essentially it becomes a way to do peer-to-peer lending, where the interest that's accumulated by folks who are borrowing funds ends up going directly to the folks who are supplying those funds. And so for Bonzo, the way that works is users are holding crypto assets. They can come to the Bonzo Finance protocol, connect their wallet, supply the crypto assets that they have to these liquidity pools. So single asset liquidity pool could be HBAR, HBARX, SOS, XSOS, Dovu, Karate. And then borrowers on the other side will come along and they'll say, hey, I want to borrow assets from the protocol. I want to get exposure to these other assets that are supported. The way that a borrower can borrow assets from that pool is they first have to supply assets to the pool as collateral. So for any of the supported assets on the protocol, they can supply that to the pool, and essentially they're able to borrow up to a certain amount of the value that they've supplied. And what that's called is an over collateralized loan. So they supply assets to the protocol determines the value of the assets that they supplied. Based on the risk of the asset that was supplied as collateral, you can borrow up to a certain percentage of that value, and that's otherwise known as a loan to value ratio. And then you can take out a loan on any of the assets that are supported. And they do pay an interest rate. So depending on the amount of the asset in total that's supplied and the total amount of that asset that's borrowed across the entire protocol, that's going to determine the interest rate that's paid by the borrower.
And how have we seen this in other ecosystems, whether it be Ethereum or other chains? How has DeFi lending impacted these ecosystems? What do you guys predict or forecast as as Bonzo, and I believe there's even other protocols coming live as well? How this, because it's a new thing for Hedera, right? So how is this going to impact Hedera, do you guys think?
Yeah, so there's two, in doing a lot of research on this, there's two kind of key things that I thought were very interesting in observing lending protocols on other networks. And those two things are that the most supplied asset to lending protocols is actually the liquid staking token of the protocol's native asset. So for us, that's HBAR-X through Stater Labs. And the reason that we believe that's the case is because with a liquid staking token, you're actually receiving an APY just for holding on to that. And so when you think about it in terms of wanting to borrow funds and pay interest, if you can supply an asset to the protocol that's also earning a reward, that can offset the APY that you're paying to borrow assets against that supplied asset. So our anticipation is that this is going to strongly boost the interest in users utilizing Stater Labs and holding HBAR-X, because that's an asset they'll want to supply. And then the second thing that we also noted that was interesting is stable coins across lending protocols are the most utilized asset. So going back to the concept of sort of risk based on asset and how much you can borrow against an asset based on that risk, stable coins are obviously stable. So there's not a lot of volatility in their price, ideally. And so your loan to value ratio, or the amount that you can borrow against the value that you've supplied, is really a high percentage for stable assets. So the anticipation is that everyone is trying to make USDC a stronger asset on the Hedera network. So we anticipate a greater supply of USDC into Bonzo, and then a high utilization of USDC. So we really want to help support USDC as an asset across the Hedera ecosystem. And that aligns also with the goals of the HBAR Foundation and just overall sort of DeFi ecosystem goals, ensuring that we have high liquidity and utilization of USDC is super important.
And when it comes to other tokens, because I think I read there's going to be Source, Karate, and in comparison to a stable coin, other tokens have more fluctuation, right? How does a DeFi lending protocol like Bonzo deal with that kind of fluctuation when it comes, like when a loan is kind of live, right? I'm borrowing some money, but the price of that token is fluctuating. How is that dealt with?
Yeah, so it is on an asset by asset basis. So each asset goes through a risk methodology assessment to determine sort of how risky it is. And based on that assessment, there is a loan to value ratio that's outputted. So, let's say if over the past 6 months, the sauce token has seen extreme levels of volatility, that's factored into what the loan to value ratio is for that asset. And so it would probably be a bit lower. You would only maybe be able to borrow up to 30% of the sauce value that you've supplied to the protocol. And what that tries to ensure is that users who are supplying these assets to borrow against, as their prices fluctuate, they're at less of a risk of a liquidation. Essentially, if the value of the assets that you've supplied drops below a certain threshold while you're borrowing against them, you have the chance of being liquidated. And I can dive into sort of that liquidation process. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here based on the first question.
Well, I think there might be someone watching this might have that question now that you've mentioned it. So why not? Yeah. Just try and keep it as simple as we can for those tuning in.
A lot of moving parts. So that liquidation process is that there's a liquidation bot ecosystem that exists for Bonzo Finance. And what we're in the process of doing is creating templates for anyone in the ecosystem to operate a liquidation bot. So if you're a developer, you can jump in, you can operate this bot, and you can participate in liquidating loans that have essentially defaulted. And the way that works is these bots are constantly seeking opportunities where the collateral has dropped below a certain threshold, the value of the collateral has dropped below a certain threshold, and a liquidation has to take place. By operating a liquidation bot and performing that function to keep the health of the protocol, you earn a reward for doing so. So there's incentive for people to participate in that activity. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure if someone is hearing that and they want to learn more, they can dive into your website or ask you guys. But that's so there are kind of three parts in the end. It's obviously different to the traditional, but there's that bot element kind of in between that can kind of come in if it needs to. It's another opportunity as well, right? For another user, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's another opportunity for users to be able to both keep the protocol and the ecosystem healthy and safe, and then also earn a reward for doing so. Yeah, so we're excited about that. And there's to the point of it being an ecosystem, lots of opportunities for people to build applications on top of Bonzo. So one of the things that we see that's related to liquidation bots that's been built is graphical user interfaces for users to operate a bot. So initially it's going to be that you have to be a developer really to be able to participate in this liquidation bot process and operate a bot. But in the future, there might be someone that comes around that says, hey, we want to build this graphical user interface that lets someone participate in that activity a little bit more easily.
Nice. Let's talk about the NFTs. You mentioned earlier on, you have the upcoming INO. Maybe we can delve into the utility of those NFTs and how they'll interact with the protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is 3 tiers of NFT that are for sale on Headstarter. That allow list sale is taking place on June 17th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. It'll last for 3 hours, and then after that, there is a public sale with the remaining NFTs. So definitely recommend the allow list spots are filling up. If you're interested in the project and you'd like to collect one of these NFTs, that opportunity is available if you join our Discord. The utility of the NFTs, there's 3 key things here. So the first is a community-centric utility around a role that you would receive that's unique and exclusive in Discord, and access to a channel in Discord that has a Bonzo token faucet as well. So if you're an NFT holder, you can participate in that. Very similar to how Saucer Swap has their sauce faucet in their Discord as well. The second utility is we are running a points system on the Bonzo protocol. And we were inspired by the point systems that we've seen on other lending protocols like Camino and MarginFi on Solana. And the way that point system works is that when a user supplies their assets to the protocol or borrows or interacts with the protocol in any way, they're receiving points for doing so. Uniquely for Bonzo, we're actually going to be using the HCS 20 point standard on Hedera. So we're using the Hedera consensus service, which I think is amazing because point systems for these other protocols are essentially databases. It doesn't follow the ethos of Web3 really. They're not very transparent. They're not immutable. And so by using HCS 20 as our point system standard, we retain the Web3 ethos, and these points are verifiable, auditable, time-stamped, and so there's a lot of transparency that comes with that. If you're a holder of the NFT, there's a multiplier on the points. So the account that you connect to the protocol and utilize, if you're holding one of those NFTs, it's a 1.1x multiplier for the first tier, a 1.2x multiplier for the second, and a 1.3x multiplier for the third tier. If you collect all three of the NFTs, there is a fourth NFT that you receive called the Singularity NFT, and that has a 1.5x multiplier as well. So lots of incentive with regards to these point systems. There's 3 seasons that we're running for points that last about 6 months each, starting at the launch of the protocol on mainnet. And at the end of each season, based on how many points you've accumulated, you will receive rewards for having done so. So yeah, quite excited about the point system. It seems to have worked really well on other protocols across the space, and so we hope that that goes well for folks using Bonzo.
Yeah, I'm excited that you guys are using the HCS 20 as well, because that was a few months back. Everyone got excited about that when it was released, right? And it feels like it's gone a bit quiet, and it's nice to see a project that's going to actually be leveraging it and bringing that to light again.
That's right. Yeah. And so we were excited to have like a real world use case for HCS 20 points. I think the only other project that I've seen that's really heavily utilizing it is NFTer. So yeah, we want to really showcase the power of that. And then also, I think it's an opportunity too to showcase a unique point system to the rest of the Web3 space. So if there's any media opportunities or otherwise where we can talk about the utilization of HCS 20 as our point system, any other protocol can go and adopt Hedera and HCS 20 for their point systems as well. So yeah, hopefully there's that added benefit of really giving more exposure to Hedera.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned the launch to mainnet. Do you have a tentative date or prediction when that you're aiming for to go live?
Yeah, definitely. And sorry, one more utility with the NFTs is there is a Bonzo token airdrop as well for NFT holders, and so all the details on that are found on our website.
Nice.
But with regards to the launch on mainnet, so we're looking at Q3 2024 as our launch timeframe. Really, the final thing that we have to accomplish is continuing to ensure the UI UX and experience for users is stellar and everything's pixel perfect. So we're constantly making small tweaks and updates to that. And then the smart contract audits. So we'll be submitting contracts for audit in, I believe, 2 weeks. And then, depending on what comes back from that, any fixes that we have to make, we'll perform those, and then we'll immediately, be ready for launch on mainnet.
Exciting. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about you and this transition that you've experienced, and we've kind of seen you go through in the community as well. How has it been, that transition from your former role at Swells Labs, becoming a founder with Bonzo Finance Labs, and what experience you have from those prior roles that have kind of shaped you into that are kind of supporting you in the mission that you're on today, right, with Bonzo?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always been, I think, since my sophomore year in college, an interest in starting my own company and really wanting to build something. And throughout my career, it's been working at startup organizations. I had lived in San Francisco for about 8 or 9 years. I'm now living in New York, but I worked at a distributed database company called DataStax. They were an open source NoSQL database, and I did community development and product marketing there. Then switched to Cloudflare and was there for a few years. They're a application performance and security company. And then moved on to Hedera, the previous like 5.5 years or so before starting Bonzo. And the whole goal is try and learn as much as possible in startup environments, and then eventually, kickstart my own company. And so it's been really cool to sort of see that take place now. After many years, we really started things in January or February is when things started kicking off. And I think, there's so many learnings from being at startup companies that I'm sure I probably have taken for granted and have applied to starting Bonzo. A big one I think is having a really strong mission and vision for the organization. The companies that I've previously worked at and companies that just I've observed being in the startup space, the success of those companies really relies on having this really rock solid mission and vision for the organization, and something that employees look up to, investors respond really well to, users, something that they can sort of believe in and align themselves to. And for Bonzo, our mission really is around ushering in DeFi 2.0 on Hedera and contributing to growth in TVL, adoption of new retail users, increases in trading volume. It's a sort of downstream effect from Bonzo, as we aren't doing trading, but we are impacting the trades that take place in decentralized exchanges across the network. And if you believe in Bonzo, you believe in a Hedera DeFi 2.0 ecosystem that's thriving, and so we're really excited about that. And then I'd say the other thing is just marketing related things, just understanding community and the importance of community, and especially those like first early users that you get, those first 10, 100 users are the most critical. They're going to be your champions. They're taking the risk on trying out your product and being early adopters. And so treating them as best as possible is just so important, making them feel good. And they tell their friends, and their friends tell their friends, and but you really have to start with that core group of initial people and fostering a really strong community. I think that's just so important. And I saw that at DataStax, especially because that was an open source organization, Cloudflare as well, and then especially at Hedera. And having the experience of engaging with the existing Hedera community in my previous role, I think definitely lends itself well to starting this project that's on Hedera. There's a good number of folks that I had just known from over the years that have been incredibly supportive, and we're really thankful for that. Team at Hashpack, the Saucer Swap guys, the folks at Dovu, Kabila, Head Starter, just the list goes on. And apologies if I missed anybody there. But
you've been building that community forever.
Yeah.
Even before Bonzo was probably an idea.
That's 1,000% right. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Yeah, one thing I really love as well is that, like you say, if people believe in a DeFi 2.0, even if they don't become lenders or users of the protocol, they're going to want to get behind it, right? Because it really benefits the entire ecosystem. So I think that having a mission that hits everyone. It doesn't just hit those who are going to be using it, right? And that's really right. Key as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Even if you're not using Bonzo, we want to make sure that the entire Hedera ecosystem is sort of aware of the impacts that we're trying to make and the milestones that we hit as part of that, and how we're helping contribute to a better DeFi ecosystem on Hedera. So that's super important to us.
And what's been your biggest challenge with Bonzo, if you had to name one? I'm sure you've had a few, but if you had to name one.
Honestly, I don't think I don't think it's fully understood by everybody in crypto, um, the legwork that it takes from a legal and regulatory perspective to set things up. There's a lot of work that goes into that. It's quite expensive if you're trying to do things right and above board. That's definitely been um, challenging, and there's a lot of moving parts related to that, and you're constantly trying to ensure that you're doing things right. It's increasingly hard because there's not exactly any defined set of rules today based on the maturity of the market that we're in and sort of the slow pace of legislation, in the US in particular, but many other jurisdictions as well. And so I definitely have found that to be challenging, but we're definitely overcoming those challenges and forging a path forward. And so it's been a good challenge for sure.
It's that unseen work, right, that goes on behind the scenes that nobody's ever going to see, right? Even if you talk about it, it's hard to grasp.
Exactly right. Yeah, and most of the time you're not even allowed to talk about it. So
Yeah.
right.
What apart from the launch, right? Obviously the going live on mainnet, we've got the NFT sale coming up. You mentioned the token. Is there anything else this year or in the coming years that you'd love to touch on or that really excites you regarding Bonzo?
Yeah, we are there's two things in particular. The first is our objective is to build an economically sustainable protocol. I don't think there's enough emphasis across the Web3 space around economic sustainability, which translates to does your protocol generate revenue, and can it maintain its operations long term from that? And so all of our decision making has really been tied up to economic sustainability, and are we making the right decisions about initially supported assets that drive revenue for the protocol? Are we um, you know, providing features and functionalities that help support what users need for them to utilize the protocol, and also help drive revenue and protocol fees for it? And so we'll continue on that path in our decision making to ensure that we're creating an economically sustainable protocol and trying to drive that forward. And then I'd say the second thing is Bonzo is a decentralized protocol, and in order to get full decentralization, we have to become a DAO. And so the DAO for Bonzo Finance is set to launch in early 2025. And all of the decision making that we're doing leading up to that, we're laying down processes as if the DAO was already set up. So yes, the decision making is more centralized today, but the way that we're doing it is creating proposals, voting on those proposals, and trying to set up those processes so that by the time the DAO is live, everything is ready for folks who are holding the governance token to be able to participate in decision making. And we really want this to be a community-driven project. They should really own the evolution that takes place for Bonzo.
That's Web3, right? In a nutshell, that ownership economy together with that decentralized governance that you guys want to bring as well. That's the self custody from a user standpoint, but then the decentralization of the operation itself with the DAO. Regarding the DAO, have you taken inspiration from other projects? Because I think the term DAO is thrown around quite a lot, right? And I think there's probably different ways you can approach it. What inspiration have you taken, or what approach to the DAO mechanism that you guys are setting up?
Yeah, so it's still really early in terms of our formulation of what that is going to look like. The DAO tooling that we'll use, for example, we have not made a decision on that yet. I know that Swirlds Labs has released a open source DAO toolkit, which we've been in the early stages of exploring, and that looks really promising. it's important that we're choosing the right tools that are usable for users and um, you know support decentralized governance in the way that we envision seeing it for the protocol. I'd say looking at Aave, our protocol is based on Aave, and so a lot of this foundational work that's been laid has been inspired by some of the things that Aave has done previously, and so Aave operates as a DAO as well, and we're definitely looking to them, and we'll continue to look to them as well for inspiration related to governance, but still early days, and we're really
stuff.
exactly
Stuff to focus on for now as well, right?
getting the product out the door and ensuring that it's user friendly and secure and robust is kind of priority number one.
Absolutely. Is there anything else we haven't touched on today, or questions I haven't asked that you would have liked to have been asked that we can touch on before we wrap up? It's been a really great convo. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, really appreciate the time, and thanks for having me on. No, nothing else right now. Just final words being, definitely join our Discord, join the community. Bonzo.finance/Discord is the link to join that. We still have allow-list spots open for the NFT sale that again is taking place on June 17th at 10 a.m. So definitely recommend getting on that if you're interested in participating. And just generally excited for the next 6 months to a year. Honestly, for DeFi 2.0, it's going to be pretty great.
I can sense the excitement, and I can also see it in your eyes. You talked about that dream of always having something or building something right of your own, and it's happening. So yeah, excited for you, man, and the rest of the team. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks, Jack. Really appreciate it.